Welcome to week 2 of Power 5 Picks. I am here with Ethan. This is brought to you by Better and Green. We are on to week 2, college football week 1. On the show, we did pretty solid. We ended up 4-2, both of us. We were 4-1. Unfortunately, our special episode of Florida State, Boston College on Monday, we both fell for Florida State. Don't know if we're going to make that, or I will not be making that mistake again. However, I do think there's going to be some value probably on Florida State moving forward. But 4-2 for opening weekend. We're feeling pretty good. We got a decent slate this upcoming week. Obviously, my boys in blue, Michigan and Texas. We have another ranked matchup. And then me and Ethan kind of handpicked 3 other games that we wanted to talk to you guys about. But Ethan, happy to have you here. How are you feeling heading into week 2?
Try not to overreact from week 1. DJU might be the worst quarterback I've ever seen, but I'm trying not to overreact. So, but he might be. He's awful. It's going to be hard to put any more money on Florida State. I wish the bets that I placed went 4-2 or 66%. They did not. They did quite a bit worse than that. It was a horrible week 1. I dove in just head over heels right into week 1, and it was a mistake. I did not do well. It was just a kind of a bloodbath. Talk to you. My first loss was on that Penn State, West Virginia first half under, and just a horrible bad beat fashion. It was even on Scott Pelt's bad beats on Monday night. So that tells you how bad it was. It was not pretty, and that just kind of sent my day in a tailspin. But feeling more cautious headed into week 2. I'm not going to unload 15 plays again like I did week 1. It was just a lapse of judgment on my part. I got too confident. But yeah, excited to talk these games with you. Some nice ranked matchups, and like you said, some handpicked games that we're kind of interested in. And yeah, hopefully week 2 on the show continues how week 1 did. Hopefully week 2 betting goes better for both you and I outside of the show picks.
Yeah, I hope so. Way to mention the show. We did do pretty solid on our show picks. We do post our official plays on Twitter. We record sometimes on Wednesday, sometimes on Thursday. So we record a couple days ahead of time, and sometimes our minds do change. Turned out last week we probably should have just stayed with our original ideas. But yeah, make sure you do follow us on Twitter for our official picks before the games start. So let's start with College Game Day, the biggest game of the weekend. Biggest game probably in Michigan's, besides Ohio State, probably one of the biggest games in Michigan's recent history. We have number 3 Texas at number 10 Michigan. This line has moved quite a bit. It opened, again, these lines open early summer. It opened right around a 3.5 point favorite for Texas after Michigan's 30-10 win against Fresno State last week. Texas has skyrocketed to a 7.5 point favorite. The over-under is sitting at 42.5. I'm going to send it to you first. It's pretty – I never bet against my guys. I'm extremely biased when it comes to Michigan. So I want you guys to get an unbiased opinion from Ethan first before you get my extremely biased analysis of the game. So, Ethan, what we thinking here?
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions in this game, but don't know if I'm actually going to end up betting. The public's all over Texas, and – reasonably so. They opened up with a shutout win last week against Colorado State, who's it's not an FCS school like a lot of other big name teams and high-ranked teams were playing. Colorado State went and beat Colorado last year, who everyone's in love with Colorado. So a pretty impressive 52-0 win. Ewers looked good. Arch Manning came in and looked good. Really, the whole team was clicking on all cylinders. Michigan struggled against Fresno State, but it's their first game after a national championship, a ton of turnover, coaching, offensive, defensive. It's just not the same team that it was, just 8 months ago when they were lifting that trophy. So I think it was expected that they would struggle. I know you and I we thought that spread at 21 was really spot on. I thought maybe Michigan would just squeak it out. I think we're leaning for Fresno State to just keep it within the point spread, and sure enough, they did by a point. So I think we both had a decent read on that first game. But as far as this one goes, I just think Texas is better this year. It's just, like I said, not the same Michigan team. I would lean Texas minus the 7, but you missed the number. The 4 is way better than laying a full touchdown. It is pretty public. So my play that I'm going to really push for and get onto the graphic of the show. I like the under in this game. Seems low. It's 42.5. Like I said, Texas last week, clicking on all cylinders, especially offensively, looked really good. Both starters and backups. And then, Michigan, I think people still think maybe their offense is as good as it was last year, but it's just not going to be. Their defense is going to be the side of the ball that keeps them in games, wins them games, and still lets them compete with the best teams in the country. And then Texas off that, a shutout of Colorado State, which I've already kind of mentioned, not a slouch of a school by any means. So I think this is going to be a defensive battle. It's a game that both teams have had circled for, I think, over a year. I think you'd probably know better. I think this game has been scheduled for like a year, or if not two. So it's a huge matchup, a game that both teams have been looking forward to. I think they're going to start out slow, try not to be the first team to make a mistake. So I would look at the first half under as well. And actually, first half under is probably my favorite play in this one. I like the game under as well, but yeah, give me the first half under. Not sure if I'll bet it. Lean Texas, but overall, this should be a really good game to sit back and enjoy as a football fan.
Yeah. Elephant in the room. I'm taking Michigan on the spread plus 7.5. I've also locked in Michigan money line. I told you I'm extremely biased here. I made a couple videos on my personal page of just overreaction week. There's Iowa. We're going to talk about them next. They scored 40 points, which is crazy for an Iowa team. They scored 3 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers, which tied. Like, there's overreactions all over the place in lines, and we see it all the time in week 2. Michigan did exactly what the books thought they were going to do. They thought this was going to be a low-scoring game against Fresno State. It was. They thought Michigan was going to be right around a 3-touchdown win, which it was. They won by 20. So the game happened a lot like the books thought it was going to with their opening lines here. So the fact that it moved 4.5 points is a little crazy. I understand Michigan's offense looks pretty stagnant. Quarterback problem, major quarterback problem. You got Alex Orji, who threw a couple balls 5-6 yards short of the receivers and try to bounce it to them. And then Davis Warren, it seems like he might be lacking some athletic ability in general. Michigan's defense looked a little suspect at times, but ultimately was the determining factor in that game. Their defense is going to be a problem to mess with for other teams. So I understand Michigan had its troubles, but that's what Michigan always does. Their defense keeps them in the games. Their offense does just enough to hopefully make it a sweat-free win. We saw it last year with J.J. McCarthy, offensive, drafted 10th overall. JJ really just handed the ball off and didn't throw interceptions. That's pretty much all he did. He was the Brock Purdy of college football. He was surrounded by great talent, very run-heavy offense. Just don't throw interceptions, don't make mistakes, and you're going to win the game. So I have a hard time seeing Texas walking into the big house and whomping Michigan, beating them by over a touchdown. I just can't see that happening. I understand Michigan's offense is very stagnant, but I think their defense is going to keep them in this game. I'm confident enough that Michigan's going to win this. And I know we can't look too much into previous years, especially for Michigan, like you mentioned, with that much turnover in coaching and players and all that stuff. But every time Michigan faces a big game in the regular season, it's always high scoring. You look at Ohio State, the last 3 years, 2 best defenses in the country. They play each other. It is a shootout every single year. The last 3 years, you can go back the last couple of years as well. These games are like 56-20 sometimes. So Michigan, Ohio State, always high scoring. Texas is known for their defense as well. I know the under is extremely sharp, but if we're just going back to previous years, these big games are extremely high scoring for Michigan. So I kind of like the over. It is very square. It is very public. I think the right play is the under. I think Michigan's going to hang in there. I think Michigan's going to have a chance to win the game. I don't know if they can, but I think they will have a chance late in the game to win this. And I just think it's a major overreaction to move the line 4.5 points from a game that happened just like Vegas thought it was going to be. So, go blue. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great test, win or lose. It's early enough in the season where a loss doesn't kill them. And the nice thing is it's a 12-team playoff where we're going to see some teams get in with 2 or 3 losses. So it's very much like the Michigan State Tom Izzo kind of strategy, front loading your schedule. Obviously, this is Michigan's only tough game, out of conference game, but you see Michigan State basketball play these powerhouses at the beginning of the year. Sometimes they get whomped, but now they know what to expect, how good they have to be to compete on the next level. So it's going to be a great test. Go Blue. I'm excited for it. I'm nervous for it. Michigan hasn't lost a regular season game in almost 3 years. So I don't know if my heart can take it. But national champs last year, I got to take what I can get. But went on a big rant there. That was expected. I'm a big Michigan fan. Go Blue. I think that's my third time saying that. Looking forward to it. But yeah, let's move on before I keep saying the same thing over and over. A big rivalry game. We have Iowa State at number 21, Iowa. Iowa is a 3-point favorite. Over under in this game is 35, 35 and a half. Again, we're recording on Thursday. These lines are going to move a little bit between now and kickoff. Iowa, like I mentioned, 40-0 win against Illinois State last week. It hit the over. It did take a interception in the last 2 minutes and then a touchdown for Iowa to hit the over, so it was close. I love this game. I have locked in Iowa State already at the +3, and I will be locking in the under of this game. It got down to 35, and I checked a couple hours ago, and it got up to 35 and a half again. So I'm going to wait a little bit. Maybe we can get a 36 in there, but love the under. These two teams are notoriously low scoring. Iowa State struggled against North Dakota, winning 21-3. And then Iowa, like I said, had some offensive glimpses of hope. I think that's all wishy-washy. They're playing Illinois State. It's not a good school. So it's going to be a very low-scoring game. The line is super fishy at Iowa, only a 3-point favorite. Iowa State, I think Iowa State might win it outright, but I can see this being like a 10-12 Iowa win. So I'm going to go with Iowa State at the +3. But again, I'm also going to lock in the under in this game.
Yeah, this is probably my least favorite game that we're talking about, so I will keep it short here. But I do just want to quick jump back to Texas, Michigan, just to give out a number on that first half under. I'm seeing 20.5 -105. Obviously, try to shop around, try to get a 21. But that is the number that I'm seeing right now. As far as Iowa State, Iowa State for the graphic, it's going to be my best bet +3. But I don't love it. I would also lean the under, but I can't imagine Iowa is as big of an under machine as what they were last year. I mean, they're going to have lower totals. I mean, there's going to be some regression. There's, it's Vegas can't just let them go under for 2 straight years in a row. I just don't see it happening. So I'm cautious on the total in Iowa games until I kind of see a little bit more. But yeah, Iowa State lost last year, 13-20. I believe I was on Iowa State last year, if I remember right. It's an early game. It's out of conference. It's tough to say there's a ton of revenge, but it is a rivalry game. They play every single year. So in state, I think Iowa State, it's not the biggest game on their schedule, but it's, like I said, a rivalry that they want to get out with a win here. So give me Iowa State +3. Don't love the game. I think they could win outright as well, but I'll take the points.
I will say Iowa has dominated this series. They've won 9 of the last 11. I would still like Iowa State even with that stat. Moving on to our second and last ranked game. This is the Duke Mayo Classic. This is between number 14 Tennessee and number 24 NC State. This line has been all over the place. I haven't checked recently, but the last I saw, Tennessee was a 10-point favorite. Over/under was sitting at 60.5. I unfortunately locked this game in early in the week, I believe Monday or Tuesday, and I locked in NC State +7.5. So now I look like a moron because NC State is now a 10-point dog. Not really sure what happened. I try to look up injuries. I try to look up suspensions. I try to look up weather. Not really seeing anything other than NC State struggling a little bit last week to Western Carolina and Tennessee dominating Chattanooga 69-3. So I could be missing something. Maybe you saw something as well, but I don't know why the line has moved 2.5, 3 points since when I took them. But I've locked in NC State. I still like NC State. I would still take them at the +10. Obviously, I'd be a little hesitant. Do your research to try to figure out why this line is moving. But yeah, I think NC State bounces back. They really looked bad. I think they were down or up by 1 or 2 at halftime against Western Carolina, being 32-point favorites. So very ugly. But I think they're going to bounce back. I think this is a great game for them. It's close to home. Again, it's a neutral site. But I like Grayson McCall. I like NC State. I'll take them at the +10. Again, I locked them in at +7.5 though.
Yeah, I like Tennessee in this one. I think they roll. I was pretty high on Grayson McCall and NC State in our ACC preview, and just in the offseason in general. But I think he struggled a little bit last week. You mentioned they played a closer game than probably what they wanted to. And at the end of the day, it's just SEC versus ACC. It's I just think Tennessee's got more talent on both sides of the ball, more athletes. I'm also seeing 94% of the money of the bet is coming in on NC State, and like you said, it's moved 4 points against them. So, got to believe a lot of sharp money is coming in on Tennessee. Unfortunately, didn't get to watch either of these two teams play last week, so I really, I don't have a ton to give out. It's still early in the year, but yeah, with that reverse line movement there, um, I just think Tennessee is obviously in the better conference. I think they just have more athletes, better players, and I think the line is it looks pretty easy. I think to take NC State plus 10 points, so it's kind of telling. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. I'm going to take a stab at Tennessee.
Yeah, it's probably the right play. That line does move for a reason. I'm unfortunately locked in, so I still have to take NC State. But yeah, fishy line movement in that game for sure. So make sure you do. If you want more in depth on that game, do your own research. I tried to look and again couldn't find anything. Moving on, a big rivalry game, a decently hyped game, probably my favorite game on the board. We have Colorado at Nebraska. This is at 7:30 on Saturday Eastern time. Nebraska is a 7 to a 7.5 point favorite. Over under has dropped a little bit. I believe the last I saw was 56.5. I'm going to send it to you first because I know we like talking Colorado games. This is a huge game, and we're also seeing huge, massive line, as we always do, public line on Colorado. So I'm going to send it to you. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, so best piece of advice in any Colorado game for the year is wait. If you're looking to fade Colorado, wait until right before kickoff. You're never going to get a better line than when all the public starts pouring their money onto Colorado. But yeah, this is kind of a rivalry game. I know you and I were both pretty big on Nebraska last year after Colorado came out and beat TCU week 1. And then Colorado came out, proved us both wrong, beat Nebraska. Well, now it's a little bit different, it's been a year since the real hype has been on Colorado, and Nebraska is a much different and supposed to be a much better team with Dylan Raiola at quarterback, who looked pretty good in week 1. I'm definitely not taking the points with Colorado. I don't believe in that defense whatsoever, or really that team or Dion as a coach. But it's just tough to lay 7.5 with Nebraska, with Raiola, who's still very young, who might end up being one of the best quarterbacks in college football here in a couple of years, but still early. So my best play here is the over. I do think Nebraska is going to be able to put up points on Colorado's really, really bad defense. Obviously, Colorado has athletes all across the board on offense. Shadur and Travis Hunter being their top two, but some other nice pieces on that team as well. I think we're in for a good old-fashioned night game shootout here, 7:30 Eastern start. Yeah, I unfortunately will be at a wedding. Don't think I'll be able to watch this one. I'll probably have it on my phone, but yeah, I think it's going to be high scoring. I don't think Colorado's defense can stop a nosebleed, so I think Raiola, has a chance to impress for a second week in a row. But yeah, give me the over 56.5. I believe we're sitting at.
Yeah, hard to argue a Colorado over. They play absolutely no defense ever. We think it's going to be a new year, and it's just not. I do have a question for you before I get into my pick here. Dylan Raiola, very comparable to Patty Mahomes. He looks like him. He plays like him. Looks like he's trying a little too much to be like he's got the mullet, he's got the Patty Mahomes haircut, he's got the Patty Mahomes shades. At what point are you going to be your own man, or are we just trying to absolutely copycat Patty? Is that just what he's going for?
Yeah, and it's weird because
he even does a little walk. He does a walk during like the.
Yeah, and I feel like most guys try to break the mold of the guy they get compared to. So it's interesting. I guess all I have to say about that is his father is ex-Lions center Dominic Raiola, who was one of my least favorite Lions of all time, if not my least favorite. So maybe it's just maybe I'm just not a fan of that family. I always thought Dominic was kind of an ass. Um, so maybe it just runs in the blood. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Be your own man. That's all I got to say. Um, Great quarterback. We don't really know anything about him. Good week one quarterback. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I like Nebraska quite a bit. They lost to Colorado last year, like you mentioned, 36-14. Kind of got beat up. We were both on Nebraska. I know Nebraska's quarterback last year, Sims, I believe was his name, had like 3 or 4 fumbles that game. It was disgusting. I think Colorado had a scoop and score. I think Nebraska has had this game circled. Everyone had Colorado circled on their schedule last year. I think they also have them circled on the schedule this year, and I think this one's even more important for how embarrassing that game was last year. So I think Nebraska honestly rolls. I'm seeing 7.5 right now. Like Ethan said, if you do want to fade Colorado, wait until that line finalizes. This could get down to 7, maybe even 6.5. I doubt it, but if it's 6.5, I would hammer Nebraska. I think Nebraska scores 50 plus, 40 plus points. I think they win by close to 3 touchdowns. I love Nebraska in this game. Can't argue the over. But Nebraska, I think, blows them out of the water. I don't even think it's close. And then finally, the nightcap. We have a shootout game of Texas Tech at Washington State. Texas Tech is a 2.5 point underdog. The over under in this game is 66. Texas Tech last week overtime beat Abilene Christian 52-51. I believe they were close to a 30-point or more favor in that game, beat ACU by 1 point in OT. Washington State scored 70 points, gave up 30, but won 70-30 against Portland State. 2 games with over 100 points scored. We have an over sitting at 66. Both teams don't play defense. Both teams can score. I love the under 66. Give me that all day. It's, since open, I believe it was 60.5 or 61.5. It's obviously shot up, rightfully so. I mean, you just had 100 points scored in 2 different games, but it only shot up that many points. This game should be a typical USC game where you get like close to 70, 68 to 70 points. 66, that is a little ridiculous. People are going to be jumping on that over. I like the under in that game. I think Washington State gets it done, but I'll take the under at 66. Hopefully they can squirt out a little bit of defense because they showed absolutely zero in week one. But I think they're going to improve a little bit. I love the under. It's going to be an ugly game. Hopefully I don't have to bet this. Hopefully my day goes pretty well. But it is my savior bet at 10 p.m. at night. In case I'm in shit, I'll be hammering this under.
I'm right there with you. I don't love this game, but under is my play for sure. And this to me is just the perfect. Don't overreact to what you saw week one. Everyone's lining up to bet Washington State. Why not? Texas Tech almost lost, like you said, to Abilene Christian. I'm seeing 93% of the money on Wazoo here. And then Washington State, they just played Portland State. So a nobody. 70-30 was their final. So both teams over 100 points last week. And then, like you said, 66 now. Seems super easy. Just take Wazoo, take the over, bada bing, bada boom. You're 2-0 on that game. Not so easy. Vegas doesn't give you little softball pitches like that. So I lean Texas Tech. You have to imagine they're pounding on the defense all week. And even though Wazoo won by 40, they still had 30 points to Portland State. So I'm sure they're putting some focus on that defense as well. So, yeah, I think the number is fishy. Looks super easy to go over when both teams just put up 100 combined in their first week one game. I think defense plays a little bit harder this week. And then I lean Texas Tech. Texas Tech on deck has North Texas. So it is another Texas team, but not a big one by any means. Abilene Christian also a Texas team, so kind of in that Texas sandwich. But Washington State has Washington on deck at Washington, in-state rivalry, so they have bigger fish to fry than Texas Tech that just almost blew it to Abilene Christian. So for the graphic for my best bet, give me the under 66 right there with you. Lean Texas Tech to get it done as well.
Yeah, I actually love Texas Tech too. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot I did like Texas Tech quite a bit. I actually was just looking at my phone. I forgot last year we had a very similar thing with Texas Tech too. Texas Tech lost to Wyoming in overtime, 33-35. And then they went on. Remember that was that week 2. They hosted Oregon, and it was a very fishy line. They were like a 10-point dog, or something ridiculous after just losing to Wyoming. And they covered. They lost by 8 points, but they covered. I remember we were both on Texas Tech last year. So we have a very similar situation. Obviously, Washington State is not Oregon caliber, but very similar week 1 for Texas Tech. And then they had a massive bounce back in week 2. I think we see that as well. The line showing that too. I like Texas Tech quite a bit, but I'll take the under. But yeah, Texas Tech, I think just take a money line. I think they get it done as well.
Yeah, one thing I unfortunately have to correct you on there. I was actually on Oregon. Nope. I was on Texas Tech. Okay. I was on Texas Tech. They did not cover. They were plus. I just pulled it up, plus 6.5. It's because Oregon scored to go up by 2, or by 1. It was 31-30 with like 40 seconds left. Texas Tech had a shot to go drive and score. Little fumble return for a touchdown for Oregon for the backdoor cover. Sent me straight to bed. I remember that game like it was literally yesterday. Another terrible beat in college football. Seems to be the birthplace of bad beats, but yeah, I remember that one very clearly.
Okay. Yeah, I remember we were both on Texas Tech. That probably makes sense. It was a fishy line because, like you said, 6.5 or 7-point dog to
it was the right
6.
Side.
Yeah, it was the right
side.
So yeah, a very similar situation this year. But yeah, that's the slate, boys. Again, just pretty much the 2 big games. There's obviously a lot of football games. Don't make the mistake that me and Ethan did last week and unloaded on games. At least for me, I unloaded quickly. And I was not putting all my knowledge and effort into it. So take some time on the bets. Don't spend yourself on all the games either. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the Michigan game. They're probably going to lose. You can roast me in the comments if you want. I'm here for it. Make sure you guys do check out our intentional lounging. NFL is back. We have an NFL game the night of recording. We have an NFL game tonight when you guys are watching this, and then obviously NFL Sunday and then Monday Night Football. So NFL is back. We have our weekly NFL show. Make sure you do check that out. And please like and subscribe, boys. We are almost at 800 subs. We would like to get that for NFL on Sunday. So we appreciate you guys. Good luck. Thank you guys for watching along.
You better start listening to the Better in Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover old spot from the bottom to the top. Hey, shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome to our podcast. Better in Green.